Hello and welcome to Konquest Weekly Podcast, Episode 2. Today, Casey is here with me to talk more about the story. He is one of the writers for the world of Konquest.
Hello, everybody. So I'll talk a little bit about myself. Nice thing to do every once in a while. But basically, I've been writing on and off since, high school. I do poetry and fiction, and I've definitely worked with Cody before on trying to write some early stories for games. And it's great to be back and working on it. But I went to Texas A&M and I got my bachelor's degree in English, and I got my master's degree in English. So I've done a lot of writing in terms of like essays and critical analyses and, researching stories and archetypes and so on. But I've also worked with the A&M's literary journal, Aquila Review, and I've gotten a lot of experience submitting stuff to that and also reading people's works and gauging their aesthetic value. But yeah, I've been writing on this story. I feel like it was a lot of fun working on Mardu Greathorn, which that name may be subject to change.
Well, that's going to be the minotaur from episode 1, and we'll get into him here in just a little bit. So, we are discussing plans for the story itself and where we're going to go from here. One big thing we're going to have to do is figure out where our beginning story and lore is going to meet the story for the game, for the campaigns. And so, essentially, in this world, you're tasked with ending the new wars that have started. And so, a lot of the story is going to have to do with that and how you have the power to do that.
Yeah. And see, that's what I think about, too, with just the whole nature of the conflict for this world and how it begins with the goddesses and Gaideus, if I'm pronouncing that right. Is it Gaideus or Gaideos, the planet?
Gaideus is fine.
Gaideus, okay. Yeah. All right.
Everybody can announce it how they want, or pronounce it how they want.
But I feel like there's a lot of early conflict where Gaideus is trying to, creates the goddess of light. The goddess of light creates some things, but things aren't exactly perfect in the world. There's things that are missing. And so there's some sadness, and then the goddess of darkness comes about. And then they both kind of get together and create humans and guide humans. And kind of the humans are sort of the favored race of the world of Gaideus. The Beastmen, they're one of the first, if not the first race, animal, what would become animal humanoid hybrids. Then the elves. And then finally, you get humans, and then later demons. And then somewhere along the way, I'm sure, elementals actually replace.
Yeah, they kind of come in as a punishment from Gaideus herself to punish the humans for taking her daughter away. Well, daughters. Mm-hmm. And so with all that, we get closer to kind of the second war that starts. And in this war, you have the elementals already playing a part. And to seeing the destruction and everything like that, Gaideus once again gets filled with grief over the fact that she is helping the destruction of what her daughters have created. And with that, she sheds her final tear, the last of her power. And that tear takes form, and that is the player. You are essentially the only remaining god in the power you have, whereas the goddess of light had the power of light, and the goddess of darkness had the power for darkness and negative things. You have the power to unify things, which kind of plays to the fact that you can have different races in your deck, even though they're from warring segments in the world.
Yeah.
And so with that sets the stage for what's going to start as a campaign. As I said last time, the campaign story is going to have different campaigns for the races, with humans having two, because there's three large groups of humans, and so they're the greatest number. I figured having two would make more sense, because with the three kingdoms, they could have different things going on. With the Beastmen, they are pretty much one tribe led in unison. I mean, there's Beastmen in different places, but they're not really a part of the war. And with the Bright Elves, they're so secluded and sequestered in theirself. Not sequestered. What is that? Sequestered to theirself. Yeah. That you don't have multiple groups. They refuse to interact with other things that they see as less than them. So they pretty well stay in a tight-knit group, just torturing and being terrible. Mm-hmm. Last time I said, out of the want for something new. And since they were the first creations, they only knew good stuff back then. So unfortunately, new for them is negative things.
Got you. So I'm interested to see how the conflict between the different factions is going to come to a head.
Yeah, that's something we're going to flush out. Casey does a lot of... I help with kind of general directions, and Casey is able to do a lot of the flushing it out pretty fast. And to get us with stuff, we now have kind of backstory for the Minotaur mentioned in the last episode. And like I said, we'll be getting to it here in a moment. And so...
Yeah. But yeah, I feel like some possible directions. Like I've spent a lot of time now working on the Beastmen and really trying to figure out like what their cultural drive, the zeitgeist, I guess, is for them.
In my mind, a lot of what was for them is to prove themselves just as worthy as humans or elves. And so, because both humans and elves kind of look down on them as just stupid, not much more than the beasts they came from. So I think it's a lot of trying to prove themselves mentally anyways. Mm-hmm. The easiest one we're going to have is writing for the elementals.
Oh, yeah.
They have really no drive beside destroy living things.
Yeah. And it's like, and that's neat that you get to see Gadeus's will manifested so that you can, like... She has more of a part in that, and because she's very active anyway. She's the little planet where this conflict is happening.
Yeah, but like you said, this is the first time that she's really able to enact her power on anything, because until now she really hasn't had power to change anything. And by splitting her power into different beings, they could act on her and the world. But since they have created these things, she is able to use her power to sway them or influence them in certain ways, like imbue some of them with her magic, creating elementals from the elements created by her daughters. And so they really have one singular function. Another thing I'm excited for is the demons, or the abyssal.
Oh yeah.
For the main demons, it is planned that they are going to be focused on negative emotions, since that is essentially what makes up the goddess of darkness. So you're going to have one that kind of represents gluttony, the sins, of course. But then you're going to have other stuff added in, narcissism. But it's not going to be Narcissus himself.
I like that. Like it's like you take these qualities, and the more widespread they are. Like if it's a negative emotion, like okay, this is lust. A demon manifests for that, and then under that demon, there's like minor demon. Like there's a hierarchy.
Yes.
Or I don't know. I mean,
and like you said, I don't know if they really manifest in my mind or not. But it's kind of just like, she feels lust, she feels the negative emotions, and so she gives all of them a physical form.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And, I mean, there's going to be more than one demon that's kind of just a different part of lust. Like it's a fleeting feeling in your mind or a full-blown liaison. You can kind of that would be the severity or the power of the demon. So the severity of what the lust causes can kind of take its own form. So we won't just have 7 demons for the different sins or anything like that. We'll, of course, have lesser demons that just fill up. But the main demons are going to be based on negative human emotions, which, like I said, is what she felt. Now, as far as the divine race goes, angels, the divine race is going to be based mostly on Judaism, angels, Christianity. But I'm also wanting to bring in the Tuatha De Danann.
Oh, yeah.
And I hope I said that right. I don't have it pulled up to check right now. But a lot of inspiration for that. Also, we have left it completely open to bring in other divine creatures or make our own for this world. Because, like was stated in last episode, because some of these people seen these divine creatures in their dreams and began to pray to them and, put their faith in them, it empowered them to come here. So it don't only have to be divine beings from our world or from our major religions. There's more worlds out there in the world of Konquest anyways. That's going to play a big part later in bringing in new sets and new cards, new scenarios, campaigns, stuff like that.
I mean, I guess it is a part of the cosmogony, I guess you could say, of the realm of Godios, because it's like basically the powers that be right now. There's kind of this conflict, but there's other forms from other places that can manifest in the world depending on how people pray to those entities and bring them in. So I think it'll be interesting to see how we can bring in that. And I think having the good people, the good folk in there, the Tuatha De Danann, or if I'm even saying that right, it's bad. How do you pronounce it? Let's just see.
Yeah, we'll find out. Tuatha De Danann.
It's gonna be just something completely different. It's gonna.
Well, that looks like we're saying it right?
It looks like it, but I mean.
Where's my listen to pronunciation? Might be in this Britannica. So we can just call them peoples of the goddess Danu.
Yeah, people of the goddess Danu. Yeah, there we go. But yeah, bring in these different kinds of creatures.
And it's not completely sealed yet, so we could have. I want to be careful to not grab things that are going to be readily seen as blasphemous to any religions at the moment.
Right.
So we might have things from Shintoism, Buddhism, things like that where it don't really stand much of a chance. We're not going to portray them in any negative light to like make them look like they're a baby wearing a diaper or anything like that. But I also know that misinterpretation can lead to a lot of people being upset over the depiction of what they see as holy or divine for their religion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Definitely have to be considered there and think about and I guess for me too, it's like thinking of what's the mythos around these things, the symbolisms that they represent, or because we do have like a neat thing about these characters is that they're carrying on like fantasy archetypes, archetypes of heroes and villains, goddesses and demons. But anyways, what do you feel like what do you feel like the focus of the second war is going to be? Like as far as like not one theme, but like a collection of themes.
Kind of my plan for it is going to be the elementals are kind of pushing all of creation to the brink, and at this point the demons have pretty much full range because spoiler alert, the goddess of darkness has now been destroyed, and so there's no reeling them back in. They're out doing what they want. And so with that and the elementals being unleashed, a lot of the beast men and the humans are having to kind of be pushed to the same breaking point. And so it's them fighting back against the demons, against the elementals, and of course against each other, just trying to survive. But something that has not happened before, that is happening now in this new war, is the elves will be forced out by the elementals and the demons. They don't care about their walls. They don't care about them not wanting to be a part of anything else. And so they'll be moving to new areas and forced to interact and probably fight with humanity or the Beastmen. And so that's kind of the plan. Just the big scary things running rampant and making humankind beastmen and elves all pay for being them.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, I think that's the neat thing about the conflict is that you really, when you compare, like every faction has, their flaws. Like, if anything, it seems like a running theme in the creation myth of Gaideus is, it's like the goddess of light created life forms. They were imperfect. They didn't have a kind of complexity that the goddess of darkness brought to the situation.
Yeah, they were imperfect because they were perfect.
Yeah.
And so it went back to, like I stated in the last episode, if you listen to it, it's kind of yin-yang. The big argument is, if everything in the world was good, would people be happy? And it's just simply because would we know everything was good, because that's how everything already is. Without something being bad, we wouldn't know that it was good. And so that argument might have a logical fallacy, but it's still an argument that is made. And then, unfortunately, in this world, like Casey was saying, it is something that the goddess perceived as there and apparent and needed to be corrected.
Yeah. So what do you feel like, how's the human race, I mean, for me, like looking at the human race, they kind of catalyze basically the destruction of the goddess of light.
Thank you for listening to Konquest Weekly Podcast. To hear the full version of this podcast, become a patron at patreon.com/Starlane.